So, welcome to another vlog. Just need to pack up some things here before we get going. Since it was raining last time I was out, I kind of need to compress my rain cover. Spring is truly here now. I can hear the bird song, and sadly, a lot of the insects are starting to come as well. That's too bad. So the plan for today is to hike up to Sörknatten and try to use the current weather condition that we're having with the sun setting further and further towards the north now that we're getting closer to summer. But the clouds that we're going to have this evening is going to be closer towards the south. So I'm hoping to catch some light there and frame something up towards the south. Let me show you on the weather map. So here we have the weather forecast for today, and you can see Mellerud in the middle there. That's the closest to where we are, and you can see closer or to the south here, Trollhättan. We have some clouds laying. When the sun sets, hopefully we're gonna get some light catching in the clouds to the south there and frame up a nice composition towards the south over at Sörknatten. Right up here, we have the location. Always fills me with joy just seeing this place. Definitely one of my favorite places. So as I said, spring is definitely here. It's starting to get quite a bit warmer. Now, Dalsland doesn't really have mountains, but Sörknatten is as close as it gets, I suppose. Great view, really great view. And we're gonna use that today. Seeing one potential problem at once here, and that is that the sky behind me here, there's some haze lying over the horizon. Weather forecast didn't say anything about that. I'm gonna try to find a good composition here anyway. I'm thinking I'm gonna do it from over at that side and looking down here towards the south. Starting to get a little bit more directional sun coming through the haze. So that's a promising sign. And this location here, the top of Sörknatten, has really been my nemesis in a sense. I've struggled so much up here trying to find good compositions. I managed to find a few, but I have had way more failures than I've had successes, I have to say. But those of you who've been following my channel for a while will recognize this beautiful forest on the top of the mountain. And I got a great shot here early last year it was, just in the beginning of last year. I'll link that video if you want to watch it. So this is the northern tip. And let me show you what I think makes this location so difficult. This is the view that we are greeted with when we get to the top of, or the northern part of Sörknatten, which is really the most spectacular, beautiful of the views. And now I'm kind of zoomed out, but I'm gonna try to explain myself. And you can see over there we have a lake, and I'm just gonna do this. Over there we have a big beautiful lake, and then if we just kind of zoom in here, you can see we have lots of interest here out over the landscape. Lots of really interesting formations, and especially when it's side-lit, it creates a lot of lovely contrast between all of these different things in the landscape, and it really makes you just want to grab this scene. And as you can see here, it isn't actually that bad of a scene here with this foreground that we have that leads into everything. But what I find is that it isn't really conveying the sense and the scale and the grandeur of it when you try to capture a composition like this. Simply all of these interesting things that we have in the landscape. Let me just reacquire focus here to explain it a little bit. So now that I'm zoomed into I was at 24 millimeters and now zoomed into 70 millimeters. You can see we're getting a lot more of the interest here in these small rocks, or smaller mountains and hills sticking up through the forest. We get those much more prominent, and that is really what is needed to be done in order to get the landscape itself to look more impressive, is to zoom in on it in order to compress it and really give it more size and grandeur in the frame. Because when you're zoomed out like this, it's just way too small. You can't really see it properly, and thus the whole scene kind of vanishes out into nothing. And that is the real challenge of this location. And I really hope that you kind of understand what I'm trying to say with this. And that is that it's easy to get distracted with everything going on in this location. And you just want to capture this or that, and you kind of lose the obvious in a sense. And the images that I've found that I like the most is actually the images that are focusing more upon the foregrounds here on the mountain itself, incorporating more of the mountain, and then just leaving the landscape, in a sense, to be what it is. So if I find something interesting up here, since this is actually more unique than that, then I'm most often rewarded with what I think is a better shot. And that is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to try to incorporate what we have here on the top and just leave the landscape and let the landscape be the landscape. Let it be the background, the backdrop. It's still beautiful, it still is what it is, but it's not going to be as impressive, and it's not going to have that dominant part of the scene. So I'm just gonna eat this flapjack and drink a little bit of coffee, and then we'll get to work. So, I think I've decided upon a composition. If you can see this dead tree that we have to the right of the frame there, and then if you can see the rock or the mountain is just sloping down between that and the forest on the left side. And that dead tree is just so much brighter than everything else, so it's really going to act as a grabber or as an anchor, as an initiator for the scene. That is really my thought for that. So let's grab the camera and try to get everything set up before it's too late. So now then, let's see. Do I want this lens or the other lens? I'll go with this lens. Let's move the tripod a little bit and work a little bit hands-free, or no, tripod-free before we lock ourselves down. So, do I want to get further back and zoom more in? Let's see. If I get further back, you can see here we're getting this rock that is showing here in the foreground, and that is going to cause problems with depth of field, and it isn't probably that necessary to have in the scene, since it's going to grab too much attention. But if we then get closer like this, I think perhaps getting a little bit back and down like this is going to, yeah, this is more like it. Something like this. Then you can see we're having this dead tree really bright. It's going to grab the attention in the scene. Offsetting it with these trees and just having flow through the middle there, and then hopefully getting something in the cloud. You can see we have something happening there now, at least, but just hopefully getting a bit more over there. So I think I'm going to set up the camera here. So then, where were we? Now I'm just trying to find the right flow in the mid-ground, or for the how I want the mountain to flow down in the middle there. So what I'm playing with here is just how much or how I want to play with the middle part here. As you can see, I don't want this tree to be too close to the edge, and I want to counterweight with the other side there. And I definitely don't want that bright spot there. And in a sense, I would have liked to include a little bit more sky in order to get more of that, but I don't think, well, as you can see, I don't want to include too much of these things here in the foreground, since they are really going to grab your attention and distract from, or are they? Maybe there's going to be a nice cross section. So perhaps something like this would be good. If I just level it out. Now I want it a bit more zoomed in. Thinking more along this line, perhaps. I think this is going to be the composition, and then either I'm going to crop it down here, or I'm just going to clone out these really bright spots here, I think. So that is basically what I'm going to work with. Let's see, it's around 38 millimeters, so should be able to get everything in one exposure. So around that should be good. Let's grab a test exposure there. See what we think. So let's see. The blue channel is a little bit. It's just within. I'm probably going to decrease the exposure a little bit just to be on the safe side there. And it looks to be acceptably sharp front to back. Yeah. So I'm just gonna keep shooting it now as the sun is setting just now, and I'm gonna wait and see if we get anything in the cloud. I'm somewhat doubtful. Well, the sun just set, which means it's getting colder at once. And what I'm going to do here then. It's a really interesting mid-ground, this scene. The clouds aren't really all that interesting that I'd hoped for. I'd hoped that we would have some mid-layer laying clouds that would catch light from that sun that just set. Bam! And even reflecting a little bit back here perhaps. But yeah, it isn't really looking like I'm getting that light today, which is too bad. But we're not gonna give up yet. I'm actually gonna try a polarizer here as well. And yeah, it isn't really giving anything to the scene. We don't need to use that. No use in using the polarizer here. I think it is because we don't have any real contrast in the clouds. If we had a bit of contrast, it would have enhanced that, but all that it did now was turn the sky a little bit darker, and I have no real use of that feature. It's just getting darker and darker. I think the sun set like 13 minutes ago. We're getting no indication of any kickback or anything. And usually color at least starts to happen 10 to 15 minutes after the sun has set. And it is 14 minutes after now, so yeah, we're not gonna get anything. That's too bad. I was really hoping for something, but this is how landscape photography often is. You really, really think you're gonna get something good, and then you don't. But what you always get away with on these types of sessions is, or not always, but one thing to keep in mind is that I have found a good composition here, and I know where to find it. I know basically where to stand and how to get back to it easily. So one day when the conditions are better, I'll have to come back and try this composition yet again. Since nothing else is really going to happen here, just gonna say thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe and stay tuned for more videos like this, or check out my adventure videos or my behind the composition videos. Check out the video where I introduced the Nikon Z7 II, or some of the other videos I've done on that camera. Yeah. Leave a comment if you have any questions. I'll see you all soon again. Until next time, goodbye.